Welcome everybody. I'm going to be talking about how to become an SRE, which is Site Reliability Engineer. But more importantly, we're also going to be talking in depth about what is SRE and how do you get into this particular career path and how do you actually become a Site Reliability Engineer. So once you understand all of this, it'll make your life easier adopting this career path. Welcome to ClayDesk. My name is Syed, and of course, super excited. Thank you so much for being here. And of course, please, as always, like, comment, and subscribe. Certainly appreciate your support. All right, let's dive into what is SRE and how do you become a Site Reliability Engineer. So, are you happy with how your organization does IT operations, right? Well, to answer this, think about questions like the following. So, is your RE applications as reliable as your users need them to be? Can you effectively balance releasing new features with maintaining reliability? Does your operations staff respond to incidents in an organized manner, right, or an effective way? Once an incident has been handled, do you really carry out effective, so that helps you more about the incident? Do you plan accurately for the future applications? Determining and ensuring that the human resources are working effectively? And then final question, are you able to retain your operations people because their work is interesting, not just repetitive toil? If you're like many enterprises, by the way, the answer to all of this, or many and even most to these questions, is no, right? The truth is that you're not really comfortable with how you do operations and you like to do better. The Site Reliability Engineering provides one effective way to improve IT operations, to improve Site Reliability Engineering, which is SRE, of course. But let's take a look at what is SRE. It's a set of principles and practices for running production systems that address all the challenges just listed, right, that I just talked about. So it improves service level objectives, which are known as the SLOs, error budgets that create clear expectations between developers and operation staff, right? And of course, the business and how reliable the application must be and how rapidly new features can be deployed. So to identify toil, right, certainly is a difficult task, right? And automating, otherwise reducing those tasks, is important. So creating an important incident management process, well-defined roles and responsibilities certainly are important, right? And really, to find and fix underlying problems without finger pointing is key. So, doing capacity planning, letting you understand how things work, how human resources is functioning, is also equally important. So, SRE can encompass just more than all of this, right? There's an exhaustive list, but these are the important ones, right? And of course, SRE addresses different aspects of the operations, and you don't have to adopt everything at once. Most organizations start where they currently feel the most comfortable, or where they feel the most pain. That's where they implement. So for example, freeing up the operational staff by reducing toil, right? And go from there. So whatever makes sense for you, that's how you adopt the SRE, and can be, make your life easier as the person working within the organization. So why should you embrace Site Reliability Engineering? Well, it can improve how you do operations, including meeting your customers' reliability expectations and increasing job satisfaction for your staff. Now, this improves, in turn leads to what you care most about, happier customers and, of course, employees as well. You're probably thinking, why adopt SRE if you've already implemented DevOps, right? Isn't it the same thing? Well, DevOps is an organizational and cultural movement, right, that aims to increase software delivery velocity, improve service reliability, and build shared ownership among software stakeholders. DevOps and SRE share many of the same principles, increasing collaboration among teams, learning from failures, and focusing on teams certainly helps have good customers. Now, SRE provides concrete practices and vocabulary, and that's the key difference, right, if you compare to DevOps. So DevOps and SRE reinforce and enable one another using principles and practices of each to continuously improve performance. So understanding how SRE can help the organization requires knowing a bit more about the ideas, which basically requires getting familiar with SRE terminology. So for example, suppose your organization is building a custom service set of, based on your business, especially if this service is used by customers. You probably want to keep enhancing it, right? Adding new features, coming up with newer, changes to the app. And you also want to make sure that the service is reliable or the app is reliable. So there's definitely an inherent tension here because developers are incentivized to add new features and they want to make changes to this particular app or service. But the operations people often strive to minimize changes to the service since every change brings a possibility of a problem that lowers reliability. So what's needed is a clear way to manage this particular tension, right? With well-defined targets that both developers and operations team can agree on. And service level objective is basically an agreement, which talks about the specific metrics, uptime or response time. So in this SLO is basically a formal agreement within you and the customer within, it's basically promises that you make, right, to the customer. So this is exactly what the service level objective provide. So each SLO defines, objectives such as 99.5% uptime or of the service. And SLOs, by the way, are also user-centric, right? So you have to kind of take a look at what those objectives are, such as availability, measure whether the SLO is being met or not, or how well the objectives are met. So SRE basically provides concrete steps as opposed to DevOps, right? Which is really the cultural shift in making, the application flow better. Let's now take a look at an important SRE principles and practices that can improve both speed of new features and reliability as well. Now, there's often a trade-off, right, between releasing new features quickly and then maintaining reliability at the same time. So using service level objectives does free all, and the error bridges does help you manage the trade-off effectively. So the DevOps research, by the way, on the other hand, and the research like DORA that I talked about in other videos, you can go check those out. But that isn't always true according to that report. So according to DORA, the research showed that speed and stability and outcomes enable each other, right? In other words, you can improve both at the same time. An important reason for this is that there's a need to work together through these service level objectives, the operations team and the developers team. Now this makes SRE a part of the development process, something that helps developer and operations people collaborate more effectively. Now managing the trade-off between speed and reliability is an important part of SRE. Yet surprisingly, quite often, we see that you can move fast without breaking things, right? Now, using TOIL is another important area within service, reliability engineering. So let's take a look at TOIL within SRE. The word TOIL has a special meaning in SRE. It doesn't include everything that operations people might not enjoy, such as attending team meetings. Instead, TOIL refers to specific types of work needed to run your service. Work that qualifies as toil, by the way, is manual, repetitive, and that's really what it is, right? So more importantly, toil does not provide any enduring value. So toil is a burden on your organization. Most people don't really enjoy it, right? So requiring too much toil can definitely make it harder to retain operations team or your staff. Just as important, toil is not the best use of people's time, by the way. So if a task can be automated, why not do it? And this lets operations staff devote their time to provide more valuable work. Now, identifying toil and pinpointing toil can be difficult, right? Now, you likely don't know what your toil is today. So to make this more concrete, suppose your operations staff must manually restart the service every week, right? Because they know it will fail if it runs longer than 5 minutes, for example. This is an example of toil, manual, repetitive work. Now, from an SRE perspective, reducing this toil might take several forms. The operations team might first write a script, right? And then restart the service and then set the script to run automatically every week. Now, there's now less repetitive manual, labor or work, so toil is reduced. So the more advanced approach, by the way, is for the operations team to use observability tools such as cloud monitoring, cloud logging, and cloud tracing. So to understand why the service fails if it's not restarted weekly, right? So for example, you can use AWS services like tools like CloudWatch, CloudTrail, and Trigger Lambda functions for that matter. So doing this requires certainly some knowledge of the service itself, the entire process, and something that SRE does encourage, the employees to have. Even more advanced approach would be for the operations staff to not only determine why the service fails, but to find, and fix the problem within. So whatever approach they choose, SRE empowers operations team to make tomorrow better than today, right? By reducing toil through automation. So now, should your operations staff become developers? That's, a good question, right? So traditionally, developers and operational team is kind of breaking down because they're coming together, right? One example is the need for infrastructure as a code, where operations staff programmatically configure their computing environment using Terraform, for example, right? And that's a good step moving forward in terms of automation and removing redundancy. So this kind of implies that software engineering skills are also part of SRE, because site, reliability, and then engineering, right? So that's more of a level playing field with developers. So embracing SRE doesn't mean you have to hire only a new set of operations people. You can, by doing this or doing SRE right, includes eliminating toil, right? That's the key word I've been using, and that's the buzzword. And one important example is that ensuring that some of your operations staff, has the knowledge to create and maintain automated solutions. So adopting SRE is like any organizational change. So adopting SRE practices means changing parts of your culture. So SRE is defined by a set of principles, as I talked earlier, right? So you'll, kind of meet with people and processes, not really tools, because SRE is a set of largely independent practices. You can certainly start wherever you see the most need. So most IT operations groups, they do suffer from too much toil. So for example, identifying and reducing this toil is certainly a useful place to begin. So if you manage services that need to balance speed of new feature release with reliability, it also makes sense to adopt, service level objectives and error budgets, for example, and then that'll help you bring real value. Other aspects of SRE, by the way, such as, blameless postmortems and capacity planning can also be added wherever they make sense for you. Since SRE encourages continuous improvement, expect to iterate over these changes as you gain more experience. So whatever your SRE path is, you'll certainly need to invest in your operations staff training. Is key to success. What your people need to learn will depend on current skills and on which aspects of SRE you adopt. So adopting SRE also means mitigating the challenges that the change brings, as mentioned earlier, and I talked about this several times. For example, succeeding with service level objectives, error budgets require buy-in from IT leadership, from senior management. Without this, operations probably cannot enforce, and bring new features deployments as the error budget shrinks. So for organizations focused mostly on lowering the cost of IT, you need to make clear how adopting SREs can actually do this over time. So one approach is to show immediate cost savings by eliminating toil through automation. So adopting SRE can significantly improve how you do IT operations. Yet, it is essential to realize that while the principles are common, organizations move to SRE in different ways. Now, before you actually think about getting into SRE, think hard about your goals and where you want to be. And finally, next steps, of course, is the SRE is not just about service level objectives and tools. It starts with a mindset, the way to think about how you do operations. Embracing this mindset means investing in your operations people, driving the cultural shift that let you be successful with this new approach. So in the end, SRE comes down to making incremental changes that gradually make life better for your operations team, your developers, and the users of your services. So I hope this kind of makes sense how your organization can actually implement SRE. And more importantly, how do you become an SRE or site reliability engineer, right? Now I did talk in depth about what is SRE, why you want to get into it, what is toil, how to reduce the tension, right? What are the differences between DevOps and SRE? Now, hopefully this will help you understand and take the career path where you feel more comfortable and your skill set matches that career path. Of course, if you are a DevOps, if you're into DevOps engineering, for example, versus site reliability engineering, I'm going to be talking more specifically in later lectures, the key differences between the two, but hopefully this, kind of gives you an idea of a solid understanding of how you can become, an SRE by just going through the developer path or the engineering path, or if you are a developer, it's easier. Now, for the real world, in all practicality, in my own experience, for example, I've seen SREs, which are individuals or skilled individuals, certified individuals, whether it's AWS or GCP or Azure, whatever it is. Pretty much they come from a dev background. Now, this is again my experience. Yours could be different. There could be other experiences, but in my experience working within enterprise companies and consulting with them, I've seen majority of these individuals that come from a developer mindset, because SRE requires or comes up with a lot of maybe scripting, because you're going to remove toil. That's really the key part of site reliability engineering. Remove toil, get into automation, and that is done typically through scripting, maybe in Python, which is pretty popular, or shell scripting, or even Bash, right? So those are the areas that you need to be more comfortable with. So if you're a developer, yeah, it'll make sense. It'll be easier for you to jump into this. Hope this helps. Post your questions, your comments right down below. Let me know if you have any questions. And of course, as always, like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you for watching. My name is Syed, and I will see you next time.